a nice sort of stout front line that DogChamp are going to struggle to get through. Of course, their damage now feels very kind of conditional based on what we're seeing so far, which could obviously be fixed with a final pick, but at least looking at it right now, they've got durability, but these fights may need to take quite some time for them to actually break through the DogChamp lineup itself.
Yeah, and I'm thinking right now, what are we doing for lanes if we're wild card? Because we've got quite a few heroes here. Just looking across the board, feels like we could be seeing Sammy Boy put on the Visage just with having the DK, the Doom, and the Razor. Feels like they kind of have a few too many heroes at this point. I also feel as if they pick up the Razor as your direct possible lane counter versus the Alchemist, but after seeing the Tiny, now you could probably put Yamson on the Razor, a hero that he's played many times in the tournament. And then you can still put Devi on that DK, and then Devi is going to be happy just stunning the Alk instead, even though you can't really deal with the creep wave push out coming in from the Alk. So they've got flexibility. And as we always talk about, you need flexibility with the last pick draft, and that's something that Wildcard certainly have here. It's where DogChamp kind of have a call to be made here. Is it just going to be the speed Tiny yet again here? Do we see Rioya flex it out? Are we going to see them make that call, or are we going to see them just kind of walk into another just basic ranged hero for Rioya, a hero that can't lose the mid lane?
At this point, I don't know. Some of those decisions may still depend on one of these last two bans. DogChamp are taking some time to think this one over. The Viper ban, first and foremost, is just kind of, you know, blanket sort of ban. You're never really going to be going in the wrong direction, remove hero from the pool, but now they really do need to sort of dig down and think about where they think Wildcard are going to be sending these heroes. But, well, ET, in their defense, they got plenty of time to think it over, so they don't necessarily need to feel rushed at the moment.
Yeah, and it really is at the end of the day what DogChamp are kind of pinning heroes down to because in the draft you have to just very blanketly say, okay, if Visage is 5 and Doom is 4, what can we pick up here if the Razor can still go mid? What can we pick up here if we need to pick our off lane and then we also have to send him versus the Razor? It's where honestly I feel like Viper for their side would have been a very good choice as well, and I was going to mention the Rioya Pango. That would have been a great hero for both sides, whether or not it would have been the Razor, the DK, or the Visage in a core position. That hero would have been able to deal with it all and just nuke out the wave and not really care about the matchup. And maybe they look for another hero like that. But unfortunately for Rioya, the free heroes are out. You're not going to see him just play a Kato or a Pango and then ignore the matchup. He is stuck in whatever lane and whatever situation he has to play in. So they pick a hero with one of the strongest laning stages in the game. Honestly, kind of forgot about him because usually we see either a very clear-cut draft, but unfortunately, this NP is not an NP that we've seen set up with global presence. This is an NP that is really, to be honest, by itself in this game. We're not seeing it paired with the SB, the Dawnbreaker, the Storm Spirit. When it comes to these jump-ins, got to be so careful because you are by yourself. You have to be so clear. You have to be so sure that your play is going to work out. Otherwise, I feel like Wildcard could just so easily turn on you and then blow you up instead.
You know, be very selective about when and where they choose to fight, and I suppose looking at it from maybe a more positive angle, this Nature's Prophet is a pick that doesn't necessarily give up the sort of matchup scenario that DogChamp wants. The Tiny and the Prophet could still kind of swap between the 2 and the 3. We've seen some other teams, I think it was actually Infamous the other day, they ran alone on the Nature's Prophet mid, so if you're Wildcard, you probably have a decent idea, but you can't be 100% sure where these lanes are going to end up.
Yeah, in Wildcard, they kind of have to say, well, do we need our mid laner here? Do we feel comfortable sending the DK? I don't feel as if they want the DK going mid. And looking at DogChamp, I feel like it is going to be a speed Nature's Prophet regardless of whether or which lane he ends up going to. But it is just a matter if they can get that laning situations they want right. Because I feel like they want the NP versus the Razor. They want the Tiny to either be versus the DK or versus another hero that he can draw versus. And that's where maybe DogChamp can pull the same trick they pulled versus Infamous the other day, where Speed ends up on the NP, but he still ends up taking it mid. But that is a great pick. A hero that we haven't seen for a couple days now, but Kunkka slipping in all the way at final last pick here. That's a great pick for Wildcard.
Are switching things up a little bit here as well. It'll be the Kunkka in Yamsen's hands, DK mid, and Devi will handle the offlane Razor to try and get that lane against the Alchemist.
Yeah, and I feel like that's probably the best solution. It's kind of sad to see Visage go to the 5 position just because even though he has still that great buildup, maybe a few less levels, maybe a little bit less farm to work with, and certainly a less effective 5 for Sammy Boy to play in the scheme of things compared to B9. But at the same time, you get Razor versus Alchemist, you get Esk versus that Tiny in the mid lane. DK versus Tiny is that draw matchup. I think a matchup that Ryoya will be very happy with. The real question is, do we need to move speed? Do we need to move this Nature's Prophet around, or will we be mildly okay with him laning versus the Kunkka? That's the question you have to ask yourself if you're DogChamp right now, and I can see them going for a play where they do try to maybe mess up the lanes of Wildcard, but that's where I don't think Wildcard really care about their situation. It's DogChamp that are the ones that really need to move here.
Yeah, if DogChamp do move the lanes, Wildcard are probably just going to kind of shrug their shoulders and say, okay, I mean, they have to commit resources for that, and they can still lane relatively well, regardless of that switch up. So, as you said, the pressure's going to be on DogChamp. We'll see, though, if they actually look to commit for it, because, in all honesty, they could probably just try and brute force it, and then it comes down to maybe a little bit more of the skill of the players individually in terms of how much they find.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, when it comes to this Razor lane specifically, of course, Razor plus the Doom, Alexo is going to do so much damage and he's going to be very obnoxious, but Razor playing versus Bane, at least on paper, does not sound great because every time that link's going to go off, it's going to be met with a nightmare. You're going to need to be immediately woken up by your 4 position, and then you're going to lose out on all that Scorched Earth damage, and at the same time, neither of your heroes really do deal with the wave pushing into you very nicely. If Stonebank can get a creep surplus with the acid spray and then just kind of sit there and right click you during the wave, I feel like this Razor pick might not end up being that lane counter that I feel as if Wildcard ended up going for it because of that reason. But that's also where I could totally see DogChamp saying, okay, we want Speed to play versus the Razor. We don't want our Alchemist to play versus the Razor early on. We'll send him versus the Kunkka. It's where early game vision is going to be so influential here. Honestly, I would love to see Wildcard make a smoke play and perhaps work towards that Radiant Triangle and try to do that long wrap around just so they have any idea of who's coming to that off lane. Because as it stands, it really could be anyone. I think the only lane they can guarantee right now is the Tiny is going to go mid. And of course, we can see his starting items, but I feel like that's going to be the best situation regardless for DogChamp, just because Aurelia, not only did he own the last 2 Tiny games, this hero actually fell into his hands, but I feel like no matter what he lanes against in the mid lane, he's ready to just nuke the wave. He's just ready to get a 10-minute Blink Dagger.
It's going to open up a lot of doors for them as we got the players just sort of throwing a little bit of words back and forth here as we continue to wait. So did not quite catch what the pause was for, but it shouldn't be too long of a wait at this point. But as a reminder, game 2 of this series sort of waiting to get underway, but this is the lower bracket final. If DogChamp win this game, they take the series 2-0, and they punch their ticket to that grand final against Nouns later on this afternoon. Meanwhile, for Wildcard, gonna have to, win 2 in a row, but that process starts here and now. Their backs are against the wall. They don't have really any room for error anymore, so have to see what this lineup can do as we do get things back underway. Pause will end, and, well, it's actually the smoke coming out from the DogChamp side. The question at this point is, where do they go? Because their opponents are still looking to make that same wrap that you were talking about, ET, just not committing any sort of smoke just yet.
Yeah, it does mean it's going to be a little bit slower. B9's already ready to place his Obs Ward in the mid lane, and that is a luxury that I hadn't thought about before, but having the Treants to actually scout out here, it's another benefit of this Nature's Prophet, not just the global teleport, but having those trees to scout out for you very deeply. They should be able to gauge very appropriately where Wildcard are. It's where, again, the smoke maybe would have been able to catch off DogChamp more off guard here, but at the same time, it is, something you don't want to necessarily expend all the time. You will have an extra smoke in the mid game, especially once Esk has his Blink Dagger, but let's see, they might clash over on that bottom bounty rune, but at the same time, I feel like with all this vision, with this Bane finding absolutely no contact in the top lane, we might just see them go 2 for 2 with the safe split.
And considering the amount of knowledge that the Treant was able to give them, they didn't see them mid, they didn't see them in the east side jungle, so you can probably take a pretty solid guess of where your opponents are and avoid a potential early fight. As Yaren, okay. Arctic Burn is going to push Yamsun away. 2-2 split on the runes. Nothing too crazy there. And, well, let's see what these lanes actually end up looking like, ET, because we did have some questions. For now, looks like Stonebank is actually the one heading into the top lane, so they're going to send the Prophet down bot here.
Yeah, and I thought right there with the Wyvern showing top, there was a small chance for Yamsun to make the move, to make that decision to just start walking towards that bottom lane, but with things as they are, everything stops now. It is just going to be the Nature's Prophet versus the Razor, a very difficult lane to play in, not to mention it's also going to be Yaren pestering with that Arctic Burn, very obnoxious for that Razor to ever approach. Even in the game where Esk was that mid-Wyvern and he was playing versus a Razor, it is so difficult to close that gap, to close that distance, and I feel like DogChamp, yet again, got exactly what they wanted, even though Stonebank, he's eaten quite a bit of damage, and, well, you eat 3 soul assumptions. Yeah, we've seen this before.
Sammy came prepared. He's just willing to spend every last bit of his mana if it means securing that first kill. So, nicely done by Wildcard to get that kill. Sammy's going to get a little bit of a boost in terms of his gold, but if you're Stonebank, if there was ever a time for you to die, now is the one that's going to hurt you the least. He's quickly back into the lane, and he just kind of reset this. Although, it's like a lane swap, yeah.
Yep, and this is what happens. They got the most important kill, and because of that, now they get the Razor versus Alk matchup they were looking for, because Stonebank, he has to TP top. It feels like maybe if he could have just waited a second more, if they could make that kind of rotation happen at just a staggered pace, but because he just TP's top to get the wave pushing in, it's not even a mistake. It's just that the wave is there. The Alk wants to get that farm, that they had to push the wave in to get that kill, but unfortunately now we're going to have to see how he manages versus the Razor. I think he's going to be okay, but we'll see, because they certainly avoided it for a reason.
And like you said, he could still be fine. It could have just been a preference thing, trying to make things as comfortable as possible, so I don't know if Stonebank will get shut out entirely, but he will have to adjust to make this lane work for him compared to the Kunkka matchup earlier on. But I don't know. We saw him, do quite nicely in the previous game. So, your DogChamp, you got to have faith in your carry here to try and make something happen. But Sammy, well, he wants to be as aggressive as he possibly can again. He would need to commit the mangoes if he wanted to force this fight, though. And B9 has a nice little bit of nuke damage to work with as well. They got to show some respect to this. And Devi going to cut his way through the tree line, but this is getting kind of awkward. Do they really dive this? They could drop the acid spray, and with the nightmare there, it might just be enough for the kill. Devi is not going down just yet, but they'll chase him into the tree line. It's a little awkward. B9 does go down, but they got the kill onto the core first, and Stonebank is going to have a little bit more room to breathe in this top lane.
Yeah, it just a little bit aggressive there. I feel like they wanted to maybe drop the aggro, and he actually salved underneath the tower because he knew that there was no way for the Visage to cancel it, but unfortunately, you just don't have enough kind of stats at that point to just survive through it all if you're the Bane, even though it's a great attempt from B9 to try and survive in that situation, but it's a little bit sad because Stonebank does get all of this farm, and, well, he gets the link on the Alk, gets slept, just needs to play for these range creeps. Okay, B9 gets one of them, you know, good guy B9. But at the end of the day, I feel like both sides are honestly happy with that exchange.
While that was going on, Sammy just sort of pushed into the jungle, denied himself to some neutral creeps. So he does die, but doesn't really give up anything, really. So reset, back to the fountain. You can TP up to the top lane, and all will be well for them on that front. Meanwhile, checking in on the middle lane. Probably not for very long, though, because this is not a lane that's going to see a whole lot of action. Esk and Ryoya are almost certainly just going to sit here and trade last hits, because no one can really kill the other unless Esk is massively far forward, tossed under a tower, and then also unplugs his keyboard, basically.
Yeah, and this lane, it gets much more difficult for the Tiny once that DK hits level 6. It's just the pressure from the Elder Dragon form and the poison, but at the same time, I feel like Ryoya is doing a great job actually fighting for a lot of these denies here. Of course, the DK has a much better bat, has a much faster attack speed just by default, and you do buy stats on this hero where the Tiny is more or less rushing that Blink Dagger pretty much always, but he's really been doing a great job of contesting on his own.
Nicely done early on by the Tiny. Meanwhile, down bot, a little bit of a trouble situation for speed, and, well, That combo is looking quite nice as Sammy did rotate down bot. They get the X, they get the Torrent, they have the Soul Assumption, and Yaren, at this point, without a point in the Cold Embrace, doesn't really have even the chance to go for the save. Not sure if it would have done enough to matter anyway, but doesn't even get to make the attempt. But at least there's a trade-off elsewhere. Stonebank's able to find a kill on Alexo, and B9 is gonna try for this, but yeah, not quite a play that he could make. It's pretty damn close, though, and it does push the Razor out because he has 0 regen remaining. Never mind, regen comes on the Courier, but he still has to step out of lane for a while, so Stonebank can farm a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, it feels like this Razor has kind of been getting jerked around, and even more unfortunately, Alexo keeps on being forced into these weird positions. What are we watching here?
Bottom lane, they don't get the kill, but Speed body blocked the Kunkka for a solid 6 seconds, I'd say there. Just using the tree ends to stay in front of him the whole time. So, yeah, Yamsen's still fine, but some nifty micro from Speed.
Yeah, it's what he's known for. I'm sure there's a Game Leap video about it, you know? Probably something like that. Body block your opponents in 5 minutes or less, you know? He's really got to work on that real short-term format, though. That's really where we need the body blocking TikToks to come out. But yeah, no, this lane is going to get a little bit crazy, though. Once Yamsun hits level 6, that's where you have that magic damage nuke. Really not a fair spell, all things considered. And also, Yaren, another Soul Summon's going to come out, and oh my goodness, this hero hurts. And if he gets vision of him, ooh, it's close, but no dice. And now Sammy Boy tanking the tower. Watch the blocks.
That's an interesting X from Yamsun, but it's not going to actually matter. Speed gets the kill. Elsewhere on the map, though, trade-off on those supports as Devi was able to push in onto B9. So 1 for 1 across the maps here. Both the offlaners able to find some kills, but now is when things get a little bit interesting. Ryoya is starting to make a rotation over, and, well, what can he find? Right now it's going to be a third hero because Sammy's TPing in, and Stonebank's not really in a position to fight. He has very little mana, and we actually see Esk making a rotation over as well, so they will not have the numbers here on DogChamp. It might be time for them to back it off, but rather than back off, B9 actually TPs in. Meanwhile, down bot, Yamsun left alone, dropping dangerously low, but he's at least able to turn around, gets the cleave hit from the Tidebringer onto Speed, and, well, Yarn had already thrown out everything that he had to work with in that fight, so he can't finish the return kill.
A rum buff, very, very nice, very obnoxious, but now it's a dive top. Doesn't, oh, he was so prepped, and I feel like they might get the return kill onto Alexo, but yeah, immediate TP out, knows that he can go for this. He was so primed to dodge that DK stun with the Nightmare, but in the nighttime around the tree line, it just gets so impossibly hard to make that happen, but it's a nice try from B9, even though we didn't get to see it, really.
It's the only play you can really attempt to make there, so you might as well give it a try. In the meantime, Stonebank kind of cleared out. Made his way mid for a moment, now he's rotating into the jungle, so, well, the good news for Wildcard is that they were able to sort of make this push. The bad news is it's not going to immediately slow down that Alchemist. As Ryoya, Avatos onto Devi. Gotta be careful, though. There's just too many heroes here, and he's actually just trapped under the tower. They know he used his TP earlier. They're just gonna find that kill. That's a little bit too much there from Ryoya. Just not showing the respect and maybe assuming that the Wildcard heroes had already cleared out.
Yeah, and with no response from Yaren either, as at the very least, it looks like they are trying to do something pretty obnoxious to Alexo, and he's got the phase boots, but there's just way too many trees. Yeah, it's way too unfortunate. Maybe one set of trees to be able to just walk through all of them, but Speed also very wisely, preemptively moved his treants up the wave, but that's where they keep the plays going, though. This mid lane feels like a no-fly zone for DogChamp. Every single time they come here, this is where Yamsun's been playing for the past minute or two. It's just way too hard to stick around, and that's just your Bane trying to sap XP for his level 6, so he doesn't have to take the tome. I think they really want to start accelerating Yaren, but it is unfortunate. At least Stonebank can kind of take the farm whenever everybody dissipates from the lane, but at the same time, it's a little worrying, because Wildcard have incredible team fight, and DogChamp are not really finding those same pickoffs they were previously. They're kind of having to wait for a lot of their plays here, as Sammy barely able to TP out there.
Home picks up the Trank, so he's going to be healing up quite nicely, and now Esk and Devi are sort of poking here and there, looking to see what's up, but I don't know. They don't have a Blink Dagger up just yet, but Yarn's just going to walk right into them. He had the high ground vision there, so this is a bit of a strange one for him, and there's really no reinforcements coming. This is just going to be a free kill.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a little bit peculiar, but at the same time, you know, gets a little bit too close. All it takes is a DK stun to die, but Esk has really been playing this DK in a very interesting fashion. Hasn't been sitting in the mid lane. He's been kind of rotating a lot more than we usually see from the DKs. In doing so, his Blink Dagger is maybe a little bit slower than it otherwise would be, but finally he's able to gravitate himself towards this tower here, and well, with that nice kill on Yarn before, this mid tower defense or bottom tower defense could get a little bit hairy, but he got the tome. B9's coming in. That's why Esk stuns him up here, but I feel like Esk might be dead to rights here.
He's trying to get that damage in. They will find the kill, but Yamsun is able to respond. He'll drop down the X. They're going to drop the Torrent as well as the Ghost Ship in, so they will take down one. Nice Winter's Curse from Yarn, though, and Speed might just be able to TP away. He will do just that. Sammy, with the Soul Assumption, didn't quite have the damage. But now if you're Yaren, yeah, you're going to get spotted and you will be sacrificed.
Ooh. Yeah, it's so unfortunate. Just like 3 seconds on the Arctic burn, but hey, you killed the DK. You slow up this push again. You give more space. You give another minute over to your Alchemist to farm out that triangle. But this was inevitable. The real question is, how well do DogChamp now defend this mid tower? But to start off all of that, so many good small plays to even allow that play to happen. Just the setup, the early stun from the DK on the Bane in the tree line, the Fiend's Grip that doesn't get utilized. But that's where Wildcard have the advantage in this early game. They can bring 5 heroes. They are the ones that need to bring 5 heroes in some of these cases, just because these DogChamp heroes are starting to ramp up with their tankiness. They're getting a few of these early items that are going to be very obnoxious to deal with. He's got the drums finished up on the Nature's Prophet. Of course, no Blink Dagger on Rioya. And speaking of Rioya, he's doomed. Mid lane. And it looks like he might just go down. Yeah, he's not getting any help.
No one to save him. Alexo gets the kill, and now B9. X is going to cancel his TP. They find both of those kills. Yeah, Wrath of Nature comes in, but that's a little too late to matter. And now Wildcard can get this tier 1 tower. This is going to be the real sort of potential clincher for them moving beyond this laning stage. If they can take more of these objectives away and really kind of stick it to Stonebank, they're going to be in a much stronger position here. And Stonebank, I mean, he's been farming well. There's really no denying that, but is it going to be enough if Wildcard continue this pace?
Yeah, it's where he really needs this Radiance yesterday, and he will get it in a little bit here. Once you get that Relic, you do farm so much more faster, but at the same time, is it really going to be enough? I think BKB is going to be what could be the game changer for them against Wildcard's lineup. As we usually say, once you get BKB, just half of the lineup doesn't really do all too much here, but it's also where if there's only one hero with a BKB, there's only one big guy walking into the room, he's just going to get doomed every single time here. They might get a free one onto Alexo. Rioya actually gave up on his Blink Dagger rush to finish off the phase boots here. I just hope this isn't a mistake, but again, they're bringing absolutely everyone here. 3 cores for 1 Tiny, but I feel like this is just worth it, and yeah, they get him with the cleave. At the same time, you do lose Sammy Boy bottom, but just losing so many cores in tow here, all for really just space for the Alchemist, and they're not even done. They're just going to keep running him down. Might be able to TP out on B9, but at the same time, you have to clear completely out of top.
Yeah, well, at least they're able to find something, right? They get the kills, they buy more time, but every play is going to come at a cost. They're not able to really take this cleanly, or maybe as cleanly as they need, but you got to do something, right? You got to make space for Stonebank. Very nearly done with that Radiance, as you were sort of mentioning earlier on, and then that's where things could potentially sort of start to shift, but just need to survive until that point. Maybe start getting speed going here a little bit more with the split push play on the Nature's Prophet, because Speed kind of shifted up his build a little bit. He initially had the Maelstrom queued up. He's now changing his mind, so maybe a little bit of hesitance in terms of what he feels he can get away with as Yaren. That is very unfortunate. Just no way out in the top lane with the familiar stuns.
Yeah, and now it's going to be your top tier 1. It's going to be the next play. Unfortunately, no way DogChamp can hold on to this cliff, and they're just going to stick around here. And yeah, Esk just jumps forward. They get the slow into Rioya. The avalanche goes through, but B9 is 100% dead. they've not been able to make a play with this Bane in a long time here, and I feel like a part of it is that Speed has been put under so much pressure. He does not have all too many last hits. He's not really been able to freely push out all of these lanes. It's also where the Kunkka is such a great hero to deal with the Nature's Prophet. Not just himself, but being able to send a hero to a lane, X him, pull him back after you kill the creep wave, and then suddenly that pressure that the Nature's Prophet should naturally be putting on your map just doesn't exist. And also looking over at Ryoya, him giving up on that Blink Dagger rush, this is a very slow Blink Dagger, a shockingly slow Blink Dagger for him. And well, this is quite the reach, but somehow Bloody Nine does it, and I think this might be your free kill on the Divide. That's a crazy pull into the night. The Ghost Ship's making it a little bit difficult, but oh, no way he gets out.
Oh, man. I mean, that'll get them the kill, but they have to commit the ult, so that's not going to feel good for them as Divide does eventually go down. But now they're stuck in the fight. The Doom was thrown onto Speed. They're going to be able to lock him down, and Stonebank, he doesn't want to be here. He's just going to have to leave. Does he actually get away, though? Alexo's able to blink in front of him, trying to body block. Inferno Blade comes through as well. Stonebank is going to try to channel out a stun, and not going to be able to get it off. Ask hits him with the Dragon Tail instead. Now they get the X. They get the toss from Ryoya, trying to act defensively, but well, the X does pull him back into the fight, and at this point, Stonebank, I don't know if he's going to live. If Samboy can get one last hit onto him, he's not able to do so. Alexo tries to come in, but there's going to be the Cold Embrace, keeping him alive. And at this point, Wildcard, you may have ever so slightly overextended. Esk did get the stun off, though, so maybe they can get this. No, Divide losing that tether. Now he's in trouble. Going to get body blocked here. He is trying to use the pig pole to get away, but the body blocks are just too strong. He's going to be the one to die. ET, what in the world were Wildcard thinking there? They just tunnel vision so hard onto Stonebank, and I mean, they don't get it. He's still standing, and they find 3 kills afterwards.
Yeah, they were completely tapped of mana. They didn't really have anything after the fact. It's why Yamslen makes his exit from the fight so soon there, but a game-changing buyback from Yaren. That completely turns the tide. He gets that Cold Embrace off. He barely survives. He disables the Blank Dagger of the DK so much there, and then suddenly that doesn't look so bad for DogChamp. That was a horrific fight for them. They lost speed to that Doom so early, but then suddenly they just survived. They just keep kicking. I think really just Yard, you can't say MVP enough. That was incredible from him. I mean, he's the only reason they got the kill into the Razor in the first place, which certainly felt like a reach, but at the same time, that buyback is just such quick thinking from him.
Able to save the day. That buyback combined with Wildcard just really going all in for the Stonebank kill that they could not secure. Kind of turns the tides now, because Wildcard were up by a couple thousand before that play. Now they're evened up, and Stonebank, well, they might be able to get him this time. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get away. Ryoya, though, coming in, trying to help out. They're going to clear out the familiars first, and that's a very, very nice curse again. Yaren shuts it down. They get the kill onto Sammy, and Stonebank walks away, heals up with his ult.
Yeah, I don't know. Yaren is just kind of doing everything. I feel like maybe Stonebank kind of forgot about the vision. B9 100% knew about this ward from before there, so him farming that is kind of area of the map is a little bit sketchy in itself. His ancients are blocked also, so it's kind of like Stonebank. Let's get out of here. Let's not stick around. But with him surviving as long as he has, and with these narrow deaths avoided, he's got a BKB now. He is almost ready to take these fights. Unfortunately, it comes at the same time as the Kunkkas, so he's not going to really be the target, and they go for him bottom. They need to really hope they can get this BKB early, but he could also just decide to BKB and fight, and yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Ryoya needs some help now, and without the curse, I feel like this team fight might be a little bit too big for them to take.
The Nightmare allowed him to dodge a lot of that damage, though. Now the Cold Embrace keeping him alive. Alexo is the one who is going to fall. His Doom, though, will still finish Ryoya. But now Stonebank wants to fight. Bean's Grip from B9 is going to lock down Divai Lama. They need to be able to finish him off quickly, and they will be able to get it. Yaren snipes out the kill. And this is starting to get a little bit awkward. Wildcard are losing too many heroes, and now their last 2 standing are stuck in the tree line. Yamsen was toggling the armlet, so he can't afford to turn it off, and he's going to go down as well.
Just stuck around, and okay, they got speed, but he's got Nature's Wrath, and
there's the Cold Embrace into the
they
concoction. Sprouts up. They can trap Divide. They're going to lock him in. He cuts his way through for now, but there's Yaren blinking in, drops the ult. Wildcard are just going to get so unbelievably outplayed in this fight. It is a disaster for them, and Esk, he might not make it out of here. They can die this. It's a tier 1.
Oh,
they got it.
Yeah, I cannot believe what's going on in this game, actually. The fight, it just goes beyond the scope. A scope that Wildcard were ready. There was no curse. There was no defensive abilities. It's just a nightmare. It's just a grip. It takes so long to burst out that tiny. It's an issue with their lineup. With this Visage Doom opener, the supports don't provide any immediate damage aside from that Soul Assumption. And in a lot of these situations, Sammy Boy's just getting stunned. He's getting put to the side. He's not getting those Soul Assumptions off. The pace of the fight is completely messed up for Wildcard. And Yaren is just carrying. And the fight extends so long. A fight with 40-second CD on the curse ends up getting a curse at the end, and then they kill both the Razor on dieback and the DK at the end of the day. It's just insane. And now you look over at the items on both that Razor and the DK. BKBs are not close. It is just your Kunkka. As we talk about with your item timings, this is not a team item timing. You are not going to get that power spike for such a long time. Meanwhile, you have 3 Blink Daggers now finished up on DogChamp. Everything is coming together.
This should not be happening the way it is. I mean, in the course of 2 team fights, ET, pull up the graph for you here. It goes from down 2 to 3k to now up by nearly 8,000. I mean, up by 8,000 with an Alchemist on your team looks kind of par for the course, but it wasn't supposed to swing that quickly. Wildcard now desperately trying to make some sort of move to get some of this back, but even if they find this kill, it's just B9 and Yaren. He thought about it. He won't pull the trigger just yet. Now he's kind of forced to. He'll go for the TP out. Esk, though, gets the blinks, stuns up, and I don't think Sammy's going to die here, so... Well... If you're Yarn, you can't quite hit 100% of the time. That one falls a little bit short, but... Even so, at least you only lose the supports as opposed to the core heroes, but now Ryoya wants a little bit of revenge. Not really going to be able to get that kill quickly, though, and while that's happening, ET, Roche is under attack.
Yeah, and it certainly feels like a force. They do have the Vlad, so it's not the slowest thing in the world, but it is a begrudging Roach. And actually, Speed is having none of it. He TP's in, he puts the Wraith Pack down, and, well, there's no Blink Dagger on Stonebank. He has to eat this stun, but Roach is not coming for free. It was already kind of crazy for Wildcard to push in like that, but they do have everything still. They can take this fight. They've got the Doom, they've got the Blink on the Alexo as well, so they have to be careful on DogChamp, but this is very tense, and once that Wyvern respawns, Roche is a little bit too low for either team to really blink right now.
Roshan is on the side of the players here. That Wraith Pact Spirit just gets sent towards him, and he just slowly but surely manages to bring it down. So, yeah, Roche not a fan of Wraith Pact either. Who would have guessed? But Wildcard are now looking for a move here. The problem is they need to be very careful because Yarn's respawned and the Winter's Curse is up right now. So they need to make sure they don't get caught out. But yeah, as you point out, there was a ward up there. So this is not as sneaky as they sort of thought. They didn't really pop on the smoke, but they gave enough of a clue, I suppose. Okay, they're going to jump in on the Bane, but there's going to be that Cold Embrace again. I don't know if it saves him, but it does buy time. Now the Winter's Curse is going to come through. B9 actually nightmared, so that gets a little bit strange in terms of the stacking of spells, and DogChamp may have to fall back because Stonebank was hit up by the Doom. They're going to try and toss him away to safety, and well...
Oh, wait a second.
Okay, now they can turn. Ryoya comes in, Avalanche onto 2, Unstable Concoction connects as well. Lexo gets taken down, Sammy on the run. Familiar Stun is going to buy him some time. Esk, meanwhile, tries to TP away, but the toss will cancel it, and Wildcard again. That one looked so perfect from them, but it's just all falling apart. They can't find the kills they need. Now they're going to suffer for it. They lost Esk. Sammy's going to get taken down by Ryoya off to the west, and hey, look at that. Roche is half health still, and DogChamp can take it for free.
Yeah, and even though it did not feel like the greatest of curses, it keeps your heroes out of the fight for so long. It keeps a hero out of the fight for so long. A hero crucial for sticking onto these heroes. There's just no stuns landing. You're not able to connect on the Doom target. And of course, it was a Doom on a Chem-Raged Alchemist. He got to save his BKB because he simply couldn't cast it because he was hit up by that Doom. But then Stonebank gets to pop the BKB, walk immediately back into the fight. And it's a great toss back from Ryoya, but too much is going on for DogChamp right now. They are everywhere, and then you catch the Kunkka bottom who can't even BKB TP out because he's too low, and then in mid lane you lose Devi. It's just everywhere and everywhere. DogChamp are just finding these plays with really nothing. They do not have all that much net worth. It really just feels like it is Stonebank and maybe Speed against the world, but the other three, Bloody Nine, Yaren, and Ryoya, are just playing with nothing beautifully.
And you know that new movie just came out? What is it called? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
Yeah.
It's a biography about DogChamp right now, ET, because they're just... I don't understand how they're making some of these plays. They split up with the perfect numbers in each direction where they know they're still going to get the kills that they want, and there's not going to be a threat of a counterplay. And half of that is DogChamp's incredible play. The other half is Wildcard have just... I don't know. They've lost focus, something or other. It's not looking good for them. Their teamfight execution is just really lacking.
Yeah, and it's an exploitation of that Doom and the Visage in the opener, where can you pick Visage Doom and then have an offlane Razor and then have a slight playmaker in your carry, but your mid laner is also single target? They just don't have any team fight is the real issue right now. And, well, look, they might break here. Point of contact. They've got this huge ward up on the high ground here, a ward they don't want to have to replace, but they might have to in 13 seconds, but there are still no items coming out from Wildcard. They need to win a fight just to ease this pressure off of themselves here. But any jump is so scary right now. They have to be so considerate about where they're showing on the waves. In fact, for Wildcard, nobody is showing on the waves. Esk only feels comfortable enough to get the fireballs out and then retreat back to the base. In the meantime, this mountain of a lead is just forming for DogChamp, and just finished off an Aghanim Scepter on the Tiny. Don't know if this is going to be a great build, but this is going to be interesting to see the tree volley with that slow. I don't think I've seen the new tree volley just yet and how obnoxious it could be.
Yeah, and I suppose under the right circumstances, volley maybe right on the back end of the Winter's Curse ending can sort of finish off whoever's still alive at the end of it, but yeah, not the usual build we see. But if you're Ryoya, you've been making so many plays in this game that I don't know, you just kind of trust him that he's made the right choice here, because every time a teammate's been in trouble, he and Yarn have been there with the save. Stonebank would be dead 2 or 3 times over if it weren't for them. As B9, well, right on cue. There's Yarn to, never mind, to try and save, but he is not going to be able to actually protect his teammate. Sammy does get the kill, but B9 going down is really something that DogChamp aren't going to be too broken up over.
Yeah, and it might signal the slight retreat. If they get to play on this left side of the map, they still have that great vision he cast before, but they see the X here. You did not go forward very far on Yamsun, and okay.
And they're gonna go for more. There's the curse onto Divine Llama. Speed is TPing
So
in.
dead.
Oh, boy. The amount of force that DogChamp can deploy really at the drop of a hat ET is just terrifying in Wildcard. I mean, it's almost strange to think about, because we were sort of applauding their pick of what we were thinking were going to be very strong, very stout frontline heroes, and these HP bars are not small by any means, but it's not enough.
They just could not spin their lead here, and he's a wild one for that, but 50 seconds on the Aegis, it's this awkward timing as well with the timers respawning on Wildcard side. Nobody's going to want to buy back. Your Razor is certainly not going to buy back, otherwise his game is absolutely over, so this should more or less just be a free Rax here. And okay, with the Chem Rage popped and the trees coming in, it will 100% be a free Rax, but no more people can die here in speed. Okay, he might get doomed up. No Wraith Pact on the ground right now. Okay, that's a huge pick for them. They might lose Sammy Boy in tow, but look back over to top lane, and they just killed the Razor again. And now he might buy back. Yeah, he has to come.
They have no choice now. Buyback out from Devi. Alexo's going to pop his as well, so they are back in almost full force, but at this point, ET, this is the line in the sand. They can't lose again, otherwise they're going to be down multiple heroes with no buybacks, multiple lanes of racks, and that could just be the game.
Yeah, and okay, timing. They're going to have 4 heroes up. The Nature's Prophet's still dead. There's no Aegis on the Alchemist. If we can doom the Alchemist before Chem Rage, that is our way to win the team fight. Somebody has to find Yaren, but if we can get the Doom, all we need to do is connect Alexo onto the Alchemist and then somehow get any idea of where this Winter Wyvern's playing, and then maybe the team fight can start for them. But without that, Wildcard are still stuck on their high ground, even with speed off the deck right now. He's going to have to TP in and push in the bottom wave probably. They need to smoke. They need to find their opening in the next few minutes here. The problem is, look at the grip they have on DogChamp. They have the cliff. They have both cliffs. They see Sammy Boy walking out the wave as well, and oh, Sammy.
Ooh. Well, that's unfortunate. He's going to get taken down quickly. Devi, meanwhile, is ambushed before he can join the fight, and at this point, he just needs to fall back. Speed doesn't want to let him go, though, but that Sprout's a little off the mark, and now he might be punished. They'll hit him with the X, but Wraith Pact, Cold Embrace, just too much defensive strength here from DogChamp as they are now pushing their way forward. Esk is dropping pretty low, and there's going to be the Winter's Curse catching out 3. Ryoyo with the Tree Volley could set up for the extra damage. He's going to go for the Avalanche instead, though, and it's not quite enough damage to kill Esk, but there's Yarn and Stonebank coming in to finish it off. Esk taken down, he'll buy back, and we are getting into desperation time now for Wildcard.
Yeah, and okay. Now your DK is not going to have a BKB in the foreseeable future. Devi is 500 gold away. He just needs time. He needs space anywhere. But unfortunately, unless Bloody Knight and Stun, any Nightmare is going to lead into a 3 or 4 second concoction. They can't show anyone right now. It's why they're being so tricky. They're trying to hide as long as they can. And they look at the Chem Rage. Chem Rage is still on. You can't doom him. And then the toss. Esk is going to die back.
Yep, Bean's Grip's even there to keep him locked down. They find the first kill, and now they're onto Alexo as well. Devi trying to make something happen here with the static link, but it's just not going to be enough. They're going to run him down, and that's GG. Wildcard will concede defeat, and DogChamp, winners of 8 straight games, ET, and they're on their way to the grand final.
I cannot believe this. I cannot believe... If you said at the beginning of this BTS Pro Series the DogChamp were going to qualify all the way through the lower bracket into this grand final, people would have said, what are you talking about? They have 2 stand-ins. This is not real. The first seed is going to go. The Infinity is going to go. We're going to see Nouns versus Infinity. But no, Wildcard just fell short. They just had no items. Again, the team that's supposed to be vetted, the team that's in Div 1, the team who got 3rd last season, just was unable to do anything. They were put so far behind in this game. I mean, they had no item timings. We never saw that click from all of the cores. We never saw them make that play where suddenly, okay, things are just happening for us right now. It really came, those 2 throws, all orchestrated by Yarn, where he just keeps Stonebank alive a little bit too long, where he just has an Ogre Axe and a Radiance, and that's all he's making plays with. But it just works. And with those teamfight wins, everything just started spiraling out of control. The Roche kind of encapsulated everything there, where Stonebank now has an Aegis. Okay, now Stonebank's not going to die this game, but we never got that reset from Wildcard where we say, okay, guys, Esk needs 5 minutes. Give him a BKB. Then we can have our DK in these fights. Devi needs an item. He has nothing. He's a Razor with no plays, with no opportunities to be made. It's not like you're going to call your Razor to the forefront for his playmaking potential. He's a Razor. He's a throwaway core. He's just trying to counter Stonebank, and I think that was the one failure in Wildcard's draft here. At the end of the day, they go for this Razor in the second phase to counter out the Alchemist lane, and I do not feel like Stonebank was countered at all. He ended that waiting stage top of the net worth, and Devi was the poorest core in the game, just jerked around way too much by his teammates. He just was not able to find really any farm. I mean, at the end of the day, this Razor net worth, it's sad. It is not what you want to see from a player like Devi as well, who is known for his flashy plays, for his laning stage, for what he's actually able to do and the hurt he's able to put out onto you. But also at the end of the day, cannot highlight enough how much of an MVP Yarn was. The man just beasted on the Wyvern. His curses, his cold embraces. I think he is really the one you're going to be looking at in this best of 5. He's going to be the playmaker for DogChamp.
Is the absolute linchpin for the DogChamp lineup, because as you said, without him, Stonebank dies 2 or 3 extra times, and then maybe we're looking at a different game, looking at it from the wildcard perspective. So I mean, he does incredibly well, and you can see the itemization for him as well. He knew exactly what his job was. Aether Lens, Force Staff, Blink Dagger. My job is to sit back and pull someone's ass out of the fire, and that's exactly what he did over and over again.
Yeah, and now they get a little bit of a break here. You know, shake him on. It's so funny. Sweet said DogChamp 2-0. Easy, you know. Much respect for Yamson, you know. He's the lad, he's the boy. They're boys together. I mean, they've been playing Dota with each other for a very long time, but now Nouns, it's a different beast. We're probably going to see Lone Druid. We also got that little bit of hint. Probably no LDs allowed in this game, but at the same time, it is going to be a mountain. Nouns is a huge objective, but if they're able to beat it, I mean, a DogChamp with 2 stand-ins knocked down to Div 2, I mean, this is their preamble for their 16-0 season.
Well, they're looking pretty damn good so far. So, as you said, they move on. They will be the ones to challenge Nouns in that best of 5 grand final. That is going to be coming up in a little bit. Not immediately forthcoming, though, because DogChamp just played a 2-game best of 3. We don't want to throw them into the fire just yet without giving them a little bit of time to rest. So there will be an extended break here before that grand final.